This is the Amp Hour Podcast. Released June 2nd, 2019. Episode 445. Ludicrously high frequency interference.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Campbell of Contextual Electronics.
We're back.
Yeah, and it's real early morning there for you.
Oh yeah, I'm not awake,
this is like the old days of like you waking up and going to the garage before work and like.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
If I'm more coherent, and if I'm less coherent than I normally am, then which is hard, then you know what.
You have at least an excuse. Well, that's good, man.
Excellent.
What have you been up to?
I've been doing the same old shit.
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry for adding in the swear word. See, that's a swear word in America, isn't it? That'd get us like a PG-13 rating or something.
We're already listed as explicit on iTunes and everything.
Oh,
so.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
I take no chances.
Me.
No, not just you. I've been slipping.
You've dropped the occasional bomb, huh?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I slip from time to time, and
right.
Better safe than sorry, If you're listening in a car with children right now, you may want to cover their ears, or they're probably asleep anyways if they're listening to electronics podcasts,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's always I've had that a few times, not a lot, but a handful of times over the years. I've gotten emails or whatever saying, "Oh, you need to be kid friendly and you need to stop doing this and that." And I'm going, "Oh, geez, there's like." If you want that, I'm sure there's tons of content already out there. Yeah, but we want your content to be.
Yeah.
They're sort of like demanding. And I actually got that the other day because Sagan's thought about that the other day. Because Sagan watches Curious Droid on his YouTube channel. He does like space stuff. Really, really cool. And he wears like big, colourful different shirts in every episode. It's fantastic. It's really well-produced material. He loves that. And, and I'm thinking, it's like 7-year-olds are watching that, you wouldn't think that 7-year-olds would be watching that sort of
kids watch
content.
YouTube
and
all the
it's
time.
certainly not aimed at kids, it's aimed at, it's pretty advanced stuff he's talking about.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if like that, if that's going to be, if they like kind of like pick stuff up by osmosis or just, from just general learning, I guess, it's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could be like subliminally teaching kids electronics if you'd clean up your active.
Right. But even if I went totally kid friendly, like it's not like the kids are going to suddenly flock in.
No,
it's like, so we're only talking, it's not, kids aren't not watching me because of that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
And most parents aren't going to be monitoring their kids' YouTubing anyway, so...
Oh, I don't know about that, but I don't have kids.
Yeah, but once
so.
they reach a certain age, like if they eat, I can understand, 7 and 8, but once they hit, pre-teens and
13
early
or whatever
teens,
the age is.
No, the kids aren't, the parents aren't going to bother anymore.
Yeah,
it's like, meh, whatever.
Well, you would get beeped out around here, I think, and that's the FCC. I think it's FCC, right? I forget
You're telling the story.
I think it's FCC. I mostly want to just to talk about the FCC.
But do they regulate? You're right. I thought they only regulated the spectrum.
They definitely
not the material on the spectrum.
I thought it was them too. Like who beeps this?
Right. Who's the censor?
Yeah.
Right.
I thought it was the FCC, but anyways, I've been talking to the FCC. Well, not FCC specifically, but I had a chance to sit down with a testing house here in Chicago.
Awesome.
Yeah, It was great. Basically, I they came in. I didn't know this test house was coming in, but I basically
coming into where?
Oh, into my workspace.
The
Sorry.
Hub?
M-Hub.
M-Hub. Yep.
And so this guy just showed up, they were doing like a lunch and learn type thing. I bent that guy's ear for like 2 hours and he was awesome.
Yeah.
Like when you get like a hold
and then
of...
he came out going, oh, he's not going to be a paying customer.
No, I will probably. No, I probably will. But like, when you had like that Nobel Prize guy on, right? It's like you just like want to keep asking him questions anyways.
Yeah, of course. I know. You just keep chatting.
Yeah, exactly. But what I found out is that there's a new guidance that's out there. Now this is like
guideline.
Yeah, this is like
this is official. It's come down.
This
from
is an
Uncle
official
Sam.
thing from FCC.
Right.
Basically, like it's a checklist for getting approved, like for getting stuff approved, and it's really dry wording. But basically, it's like as people are taking stuff towards Part 15A, Part 15B, intentional, non-intentional, it's like guidelines on what you should be doing for doing that kind of thing. So I said I'd mention it on here because like that. First off, they hadn't had that previously. It was basically like a knowledge-based article they had, but now there's actually something out there that's officially like, hey, here's the things you should be doing.
To.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I'll link that stuff
but you
in.
should be doing to what, pass or to be a good little boy? You know.
I think
guess
it's more
there's
like
no difference. As long as you pass, you pass, right?
Yeah, I think it's more like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's it's definitely like dry language. Let's see. What is the question? What is the FCC guidance for equipment authorization of transmitter module devices and equipment that incorporates transmitter modules? Yeah, exactly. And that's not just early morning. That's and like this whole site. I mean, like the whole FCC site is
of course
is
it
like
is.
that. But oh man. Well, and that's another thing that was interesting though. He said, if you go to the EU website, it's actually better wording. But if you pass EU, you'll probably also pass FCC.
Of course, yeah. That's
so.
I think that's a given. Yeah,
I didn't know. So like I'm new to a lot of this stuff, so really interesting stuff. I'll put some links in the show notes about this and what some of what he was going through. I was just talking about using like 2 unlicensed bands, pretty common ones, 900, 2.4, and like he was telling me what to look through as well, and things you need to look at. So it's it's interesting. It's an interesting new thing. Intentional transmitting. Yeah. So, yeah.
Got it. But I thought they already would have had they have their standards.
They write regulations,
you're different
right?
Between
Yeah, they write regulations. This is more like guidelines, right? So
okay. They're
like
trying
the
to be a bit more approachable, are they?
I think so, and I think it's like the difference between like a legal document and like a guideline, or like a guideline. That's exactly what it is. It's the difference between like a legal document and like a blog post about a legal issue. It's kind of like the equivalent, sort of. I don't know if it's quite as friendly as a blog post, but that's kind of the idea. So,
I've got a segue with this.
Yeah, go for it.
Something that apparently, if you launch a satellite from US soil, you have to meet FCC requirements, or I think FCC govern the space as well.
Oh, really? Okay, so like
I think so. I think that's how it is. But there's a thing which it exploded on the internet last week, in that how SpaceX, Elon Musk, has been sending up all these Starlink satellites, sent up the first 60.
Yep.
Did you hear about this?
Those things are amazing.
Yeah. And they plan to launch up to several thousand of these initially, and then up to 10,000 plus, and 10 or 11,000 of these satellites in various radii. And if you don't know, there's only there's only 2,000 active satellites in the whole sphere up there now. And if you include junk, space junk and stuff, there's only 3,000 or something, low numbers. They plan on quadrupling the number of stuff
it's
up
about
there,
to get
just
much
them.
more crowded. Yep.
Yeah, and then there's all these other companies. Amazon are doing it as well, and there's I think at least two other competing ones to Starlink. Who are all trying to get these internet satellites up there.
Right, and I think there's high bandwidth, Starlink is high bandwidth stuff. It's meant to be a actual like a cable internet provider style.
Yes, and it's phased array, so it can handle thousands of connections at once. Each satellite can handle 10,000 people or something's internet, and huge bandwidth stuff because they're so close that And anyway, the problem is that nobody really saw coming. No pun intended. Is that you can see the damn things.
Yeah, right.
And this is apparently they're really bright for a couple of hours after dusk and before dawn, and this is like the sky is going to be filled with these. These are geosynchronous, so they don't just sit in the one
they're gonna be
spot.
moving around.
They're just whizzing over.
Yep.
That's right. And apparently they're always doing little course corrections and stuff. So they're very difficult, almost impossible to track accurately, so that the astronomers can actually know the locations of them. And apparently it's going to destroy astronomy, or it's going to make it, order of magnitude harder, and it's going to ruin not only astronomy, but like the sky at night for people who just love to stargaze.
They'll look like stars. They'll look like shooting stars, pretty much, right?
Little shooting, like whizzing stars everywhere. Yeah. And like I know it's it's a kind of an exciting thing to sit out there at night and go, oh, there's a satellite. Like if you sit there long enough and stare at the sky, you'll catch a glimpse of a satellite going over. But imagine that multiplied by 100. Mm-hmm. It's like it's going to become too much. And there's a lot of people out there saying, why didn't anyone think of this? And Elon Musk is coming out saying, oh, no, they won't be visible. They're too small and blah, blah, blah. And people are taking cell phone videos.
I've seen like because especially like the string of them because they started as one bundle and then they started going out, right?
Then they deploy them, and then they've got it's a whiz-bang new thruster system too.
It's not is it argon?
Is it argon gas or something? It's one of those.
Krypton.
Yeah.
It was Krypton.
Krypton, yes, that's it. Krypton.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And little Krypton thrusters that move them around. And because their position is not critical, unlike GPS, for example, they can course correct all the time, and they don't really have to tell anyone. It just doesn't matter as long as they sort of keep a rough equidistant between them.
Should we do a countdown before satellite collisions are happening? I mean,
I don't think that's ever going to happen. There's just space is a big ass bit of territory up there. Space is big. Yeah. So, people think, putting 10,000 up there, we won't be able to get through. Rockets will just be blowing up as they go up. No, the odds are, it decreases from, or it increases from 0.01% of a collision to 0.1% or something. Or no, not even. It barely raises the actual percentage of hitting something as you launch a rocket, but still, it's a because they're only one object. Unlike what was it India who exploded that satellite, who shot down one of their own satellites to test their new weapon system, and the debris just boom into 10,000 little pieces.
Oh yeah.
Last month, I think it was India or something. Yeah, India wanted to show their might and. They shot down a satellite. So, whoops. And now it's just created junk everywhere. Anyway.
So you were mentioning the FCC was covering stuff on U.S. soil. Does that mean that all those will be also?
They are. I believe, yes. They have to meet certification because they were launched from the U.S. Or even maybe if you're a U.S. company and you launch overseas, I think you still have to meet their requirements or whatever. So anyway, but nobody thought of what I'm trying to get to here after all this is that nobody thought about the visual problem.
The visual, right.
Which is like interference.
Sure.
The same as EMC is interference, right?
Did you see my tweet about that? I've been reading this RF book, and there's different there's high frequency, ultra high frequency, whatever.
Oh yes, I saw that.
300 gigahertz and above is ludicrously high frequency. People kept saying that's light. That's light is ludicrously high frequency. So it's ludicrously high frequency interference.
Yeah, I had never heard that before.
I had not either.
Is that an official band or is that?
Oh yeah. That's from. I don't remember where it's from. I mean, so the book is Planar Microwave Engineering. It is a fantastic book, by the way. Really have been enjoying it.
I'm sure it's riveting. Sure,
it's actually really funny written. It's really good writing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get the author on the show later this year. So
cool.
We'll see. Yeah. One more thing I wanted to mention about the FCC though. I was really surprised. This guy told me. Did you know that both? So we had made the jokes on here about the white label goods. Remember how we had talked about that, how ovens aren't regulated.
No, come on. I don't remember. We've done 500 shows and I don't remember shit.
Yeah, right. So we had talked on here briefly, I think, and I think I mentioned on one of the guest shows as well, is that
I remember that was in 2012.
this was like a month ago, Dave. Come on.
Oh, was it? Okay, right. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so there was basically white label goods like ovens and dishwashers aren't covered.
Yep.
You don't have to have compliance on those.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, now it rings a bell.
All right. So good.
Yeah, which is very surprising.
So this guy Steve,
does that include microwave ovens?
It does not. Yeah, that one actually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's
right,
certain white label goods. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
However, did you know that cars are not regulated?
What?
Yeah, I had the exact same reaction. And again, this is from this guy Steve who I met, and so I'm going completely off his word. I have actually not verified it in a sense, but he said that because cars are going to interact so much with consumer goods that they leave it up to the car manufacturers and they self-regulate. So they still do testing, but they're not required.
Yeah, because I see it all the time. Like these test chambers, EMC test chambers, they've got ones where you can drive a car and a truck in, and they put the car on the big turntable and they EMC test it.
Yeah.
Like you see it all the time. I thought it was a given that
I think it's just like
automotive EMC testing. It's compliance. There's compliance standards they're testing to. CISPA 25. Compliant.
I think that...
And a COIC RF chamber.
CISPA 25 might be their thing, but at least that's what he was telling me, is that cars are self-regulated, that is part of their industry, not covered by the FCC.
Wow. Okay. Right. That's interesting.
Which was like, so like, of course you still like, and so like, and we were talking about a bunch of testing things as well. And I'd like to get someone like this Steve on the show as well, just like someone like to kind of talk about all the realities of the testing industry, because I think it's, it's a little snoozy, but sometimes, but like, I love it. Like I was really fascinated, and I think it has huge implications for the stuff we're doing. Just getting a little bit of truth around that, right? But he was talking too, like someone else came up and was asking about like UL testing and stuff like that, and same thing. Like UL testing is not required by anyone, but what it is required by is like if you want to sell your stuff in like Walmart's going to say, yeah, you better have a UL rating, or Home Depot is going to say, yeah, you better have a UL rating. And at that point, it's like an ad hoc rating. It's like you better have it or else.
You're right. I'm looking at the list now. Every manufacturer has their own standard. Like General Motors, GMW 3097, Ford has their own standard. Toyota, Mitsubishi, Renault. I am seeing SAE standard, a J1113 standard, but I think that's just for the connector. I think that's just for like the DIN connector interface and stuff. I don't think that's EMC. And there's CISPA 12, 13, 25. But yeah, you're right. They have their own. They have their own standards. Wow. Yeah. You learn something new every day on the Amp Hour.
That's right. Even during the Amp Hour sometimes. You have to send me that list too. That sounds good. We'll add to the notes too.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, like this kind of stuff, it's like it feels like so much of the stuff that I was talking to him about was just like, I have like these assumptions about what you do and don't need to do, but it's at the end of the day, it comes down to like there's regulation, of course, and like even regulation. This is going to sound really bad. It's only regulation if you get caught doing this thing. Now, if you get big enough, you're going to get caught. Right? But for a lot of this stuff, it's like, people are doing this in good faith because they are hopeful that they're going to get big enough. And if they don't do this stuff, then if they don't do the regulation, they don't do the testing, rather, they're going to get screwed. It's like, your stuff gets pulled from the shelf, you get fined, and yada, yada, yada. But, just kind of the actual, like the absolute minimums of the things you need to do and the things you should be doing, those are always really interesting to me because what are those things,
Well, I, of course, come from the ultimate free-for-all market, the marine market, the oceanic market, the marine environment. There are, once you leave international waters, there are no regulations. I never had to design to EMC.
There are no rules.
Anything. And so all the military, all the marine underwater military stuff I worked on, all the civil stuff I worked on for the underwater seismic stuff and boat based stuff as well. Equipment goes on. None of that had to meet any standards at all.
Really?
It
Okay.
was like, yeah, and the industry didn't really even have any of its own standards. There weren't any in-house standards as well. It's like, does it do the job? Yep, that's it. It's like screw anything else.
Spewing RF like it's its job, yeah.
Yep, that's it. So, yeah, you just didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's as we talk to people that are doing like consumer goods, of course, this is like number one kind of thing.
Heavily regulated, yeah.
Right. And it makes sense too from a volume perspective. Like what you're talking about, sometimes you were working on things that were really expensive, but you'd have like 10 of them in the world, right?
Yeah, you'd have 10 of them, yeah.
Right. Versus something where it's a cheapo thing that's going to be like 10 million of them in a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A little more impact there. That's interesting.
Got it.
There was no regulation on anything or what?
No.
Okay.
I don't ever recall a regulation on anything at all.
Yeah. I guess you would be self-testing though too. I guess that's what I think. That's the difference. Is like testing about testing
you would make
versus
up your own
regulation.
testing requirements. I'd be writing the testing documents myself. Yeah. Coming up with the standards.
Right. Well, and there's like mil-spec stuff too, and that is used as like a guideline.
There's mil-spec stuff. Of course. And if you're interfacing with stuff, then of course you have to meet the interface specifications of that thing. But apart from that, no. EMC just jeez. Yeah. Nobody ever worried about that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I think too these days, like as so many more things have radios on them, it's just such an important concern these days because like everything spews 2.4 gigahertz, everything spews 900 megahertz or whatever your local thing is, and it's like that's when it's really going to start to. People get mad when they don't have Wi-Fi, and if your thing is messing up their Wi-Fi, they're going to get pissed. Yep. So yeah.
The only time I had to meet any standards was doing some RF test gear for use in the production facility.
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that. You've got to get certified modules, your things like that. But apart from that, no. Yeah. Not in the actual products.
Right.
So.
Right. Huh. Cool. Well, we'll get some more people on here to talk about that for sure because I was like thinking about asking Steve, this guy, to be on. I was like, I could probably ask him a bunch of free questions about stuff if I just have on the amp hour. And everybody else gets to hear it too. That's great.
Free consulting.
Yeah, my secret's out now.
Yeah,
been doing that for 9 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about the Huawei thing. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's how I say it. I say Huawei. Yeah.
Huawei? Yeah.
I usually don't even say the H usually. I don't know if that's correct or not. Yeah.
Huawei.
Huawei.
Yeah. That's like a very Aussie thing to do, is to drop.
Or British thing too, yeah.
British, yeah.
Aussies are just diet British people, right?
Right, okay, yeah.
British people you left in the sun for too long.
Yeah, that's it.
Little sun-addled brains.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, anyways. This is big because I bloody went and bought a new Huawei Mate phone.
I know,
which is really great,
good,
by the way.
Nice spec phones. Like the cameras are amazing.
They're really great. They're still shit in low light. Like everyone goes, the most amazing cameras ever. Yeah, put them in freaking, go down to my dumpster room and try and take a video. It looks like shit.
Right.
Okay.
Why didn't they call you about that, Dave?
Well, the thing is, it looks fantastic on the screen. Right. When I was down there, right, because my old phone, which was a bloody, what was it?
Motorola, wasn't it?
A Motorola X-Force, right? And it just shot horrible video down there, and it looked horrible on the screen. You could see it. But the Huawei one looked fantastic on the screen, so I thought, when I first shot video down there, I'm going, this is amazing footage. This looked great on the screen. Then I got it back and blew it up on the full screen editing and I'm going, look at all the processing they're doing on that, smoothing out things. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Oh, it's like, you're going to be shitting me. This is terrible. So it's still crap.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So, yep.
Well, anyway. If you just, replace your computer monitor with Huawei as well, then you'd be in good shape.
Right, with a tiny little shrink it down,
that's
get
right,
a little 6-inch preview screen, and everything will look fantastic. Unbelievable. Anyway, yes, they are very good if you give them enough light. But anyway, so I went and bought one, and then like 3 days later, of course, the big announcement came that Uncle Sam was banned them. And then Google, of course, being a US company, had to comply, and then they announced that they were going to stop in 90 days, they were going to stop supporting Huawei products. And of course, if your phone doesn't support Google, that includes the Google Play Store. So you won't even be able to install bloody Android apps, you know?
Yeah.
So...
Right, and Apple, it doesn't matter for Apple because you're not going to have, they don't support it with iOS. So then it's basically like, okay, so now what? Are they just going to spin up a OS from scratch? It's like, oh, maybe not.
Right. Well, no, because Android's open source, right?
Right.
They can technically take it and spin their own version.
Right.
They can do that.
Sure.
There's nothing legally stopping them. But if consumers can't access the Android App Store, then, well, they have to make their own app store, and then people will have to put their Android apps on the Huawei store specifically. So now you'd have to, all those millions of apps out there would have to be on, people that have to manually upload to these different platforms as well.
I wouldn't actually put it out of the realm of possibility that happens and it takes off potentially. People love cheap hardware and like good hardware too. To be honest, so I wouldn't actually.
It's not cheap hardware. These phones aren't cheap.
That's true, sure. But they also make cheap hardware. They don't just make really high end stuff. They also make.
Right. Okay. I haven't looked at their.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how this is. I mean, so we should say, obviously, this is a protracted U.S. thing. I'm pissed off about it all. I think it's
it's ridiculous in this era of global trade. It's just
the protectionism is very frustrating. People can have their politics. That's fine, whatever. But I'm personally very frustrated, and that there's more tariffs that came through. I'm paying tariffs crazy.
I don't mind the idea of tariffs and actually protecting your country and stuff like that. If you want to do that, well, okay, you live and die on the marketplace, right? Kind of thing. But to outright ban, like this is just ridiculous.
Well, and I do agree with the tariff stuff. I don't agree with. I do think there's some IP abuses in general, and I don't know how to deal with them other than that. I think that it's a little commingled in there, so I don't really know how to deal with that stuff. I will give that some credit. But at the end of the day, it's just interesting to see how this has rippled through the industry as well, right? There was also an article about how internally at ARM now as well. So ARM is not a U.S. company; it's a British company, right? They're based out of Cambridge in the UK. Yeah. And there was I already lost the article. Where'd it go? It was basically like the here it is. There was an internal memo that said, stop working with Huawei at ARM.
And that is pure politics. That's come through. Somebody knows somebody. Somebody's tapped somebody on the shoulder at 10 Downing Street. And then 10 Downing Street has tapped somebody on the shoulder at ARM.
Oh, and, maybe, yeah. I don't even know if it's about that. It could just be a pure profit thing, though, too. I mean, like, if it's a...
No. No, of course they're going to want to sell. If it's pure profit, they're not going to want to ditch one of the hugest companies on the planet, Huawei. I mean, they're enormous. They're like I think they're just about to overtake Apple. They were like, months away from overtaking Apple in terms of like market, wealth, kind of, market.
Yeah, like valuation.
Capitalization. Yeah. So like they are enormous. So if it's purely profit motive, no way. I ain't buying that for a second. So nah. Somebody does. It's
I just meant like it could be. Yeah, it could be from other side of things. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I guess you're right. That they would probably just want to sell as many chips as they could. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from that, and if like
ARM. For those who don't know, ARM don't sell chips.
That's right. They
sell licenses
IP.
to cores. Yeah. Sell IP. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people on the various forums were talking about like, oh, RISC-V now is going to become huge from this. Like, I don't think that's going to be the ultimate result of this, but it is an interesting, mind game at least of like, oh, yeah, maybe there is another way, But we'll see what happens with that.
What is the competition to ARM? I mean, RISC-V is technically competition, right? But it's so new and small in the scheme of things,
right?
That it's much more niche and academic than it is practical, I guess.
I think the other thing would be like
competition is there?
Intel Mobile, but like, I don't think that actually is a real thing.
You're right. Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's fascinating, and how Huawei have been buying up stock in anticipation of this happening. So they were buying up stock, like billions of dollars in stock, as in component supply stock. So yeah, so they can keep going for a while. They can keep manufacturing phones, but of course you can cut them off at the software front.
Right.
So yeah, and it all has to do with Googly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like what you said earlier is like it keeps highlighting like how completely interconnected the ecosystem is, and like any small wrench in the works, really just the whole machine comes tumbling apart. I think. I think that's why I'm concerned in general. Like obviously I buy out of distribution. I'm the smallest of the small players. It's not like I have any stake in this, right? Like you said, I pay the tariffs. That's fine. I have to do it. Like I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, but it's not a show. Yeah, but it hasn't been a showstopper for anyone. Yeah, like people are annoyed by the tariffs.
Right, but I think that
but it hasn't stopped you getting parts, and
that's correct.
So,
that's correct. But I think that like the brinksmanship type actions from all this, I think that could lead to greater actions, greater, shut down of factories, stuff like that. I think like mostly I'm just nervous about it. Like you're right, there's nothing in the short term that affects me. I'm not Huawei.
right.
It's surprising, but it's true. But I think that I'm just, keep an eye on things.
And it is, you've got to, cue the conspiracy theorists, but it's very interesting timing for this. I mean, Huawei were virtually unknown a year ago, right? Nobody was buying Huawei phones, right?
I had a Nexus 6P. That was by Huawei, yeah. That was a Google phone. Okay. They were making Google phones.
Oh, they were making Google. That was the Google phone, was it?
The Nexus 6P was. They bounced between different manufacturers. Between the Nexus 5, Nexus 4, Nexus whatever. They were all different.
Yeah, but you were buying a Google branded phone, like Huawei. Like it's not like you were going bragging to people, "Hey, look, I've got a Huawei."
That's true. I bought it because it was a Nexus 6P. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So they were just like this mysterious OEM who manufactured these phones in China, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And, as huge as they were, they weren't well known. But now their brand, as just like in the last year,
China, I think that's the big thing.
No, of course.
Yeah.
And last year and a half, they've been gotten huge, and of course they're threatening to overtake Apple and become like the biggest player on the market. And all of a sudden, well, let's stop them basically. So I'm not sure of the original trigger or what is. And do you know what the original trigger for all this is?
The two things that I read about was that
they arrested one of the Huawei executives. They arrested one of them. The U.S. authorities.
Yes, that's right. The CTO was arrested in Toronto.
Yep.
And then sent to the U.S. So
for what? For what? What was the?
I don't remember on that one.
This is the politics segment of the Empire.
The two things that I kept hearing about were, one, the concerns about 5G equipment on the back end, and then having basically backdoors into that. That was one concern.
Okay.
That I heard about again.
Oh yes, because they were selling chipsets or something, weren't they? They were selling like router products.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Exactly. Server side stuff. And then. The other thing was just general like IP, playing fast and loose with IP, and then having no recourse against it. So those are the two things I heard. Right. I'm not sure how accurate those are. I'm sure people will let us know in the comments. They're so good about popping out of the woodwork when there's politics stuff.
Yeah, of course.
But I think as we speak. I think there is there's a lot of like geopolitical stuff that's tied up in this as well. So yeah, it's
way above our pay grade. Chris.
Way above. I mean, at the end of the day, you just want a phone that works, and now you've got
right. Yeah, I know. I just phone, literally like 3 or 4 days after I bought it.
Yeah, it sucks.
Anyway, luckily I didn't buy the high end one. See, because I never buy the leading edge phone. I always buy like a gen behind at least.
Yeah.
Because they're cheaper and they're almost as good.
Yeah.
As the latest one.
Nobody has ever accused us of being bleeding edge, Dave.
Right. Okay. True.
Yeah.
There goes our plans to rename the show to the Bleeding Edge Podcast.
Oh, we were going to do Oh, that's right. We were going to do Bleeding Edge. We were going to do a crypto coin. That's why I sent you that email about.
Oh yes, a crypto coin. Yes, I've been thinking about doing my own crypto coin.
Boy.
As well as my own real coin. I've always I think I want to put my head on like a real minted coin. So I want to mint my own coin. So seriously, I'm dead serious. If anyone out there has any contacts or any skill in actually designing the punched dies.
Oh, I was going to say you should just
or the artwork for the coins that you can send to the punch die makers, please get in contact.
Well, you should look at those. Challenge coins are like a big thing now. Do you know what challenge coins are?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yep.
And like there's like services now you can do those on demand.
Yeah, but they're more medallion-like. Like I want a crafted like. There's two ways to do these type of coins. There's the cheap way, like the challenge coins are done, and then there's the old school professional way, which is to get some greybeard nude virgin to sit there carving out the queen's head on the stamping die, on the stainless, like on the steel stamping die, and then actually stamp them out, the high relief coins as they're called.
Got it.
And there's various finishes on coins and stuff like that. And
I didn't know none of these things. Yeah.
No, well, So yeah, if anyone has the skills to do that, I'm actually dead serious about getting my own, a pure silver coin minted. So yep. Please contact me, david@eevblog.com.
Okay.
there might be something in it for you.
Right, I'll pay you in coins as soon as he makes them.
I'll pay you in coins, yeah. I'll pay you in silver.
Yeah.
But yeah. Should we do our own crypto coin? So you reckon it's too simple these days, do you?
It really is. I had sent Dave an email a
coin or a token?
Yeah.
Coin or a token, Chris? It's a big decision.
I don't want to do any of this stuff, Dave. I was just joking about it. That was just a bleeding edge joke. That's all that was.
Because you know that I'm into crypto.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Cryptocurrency, not
I do accept crypto on my store, and I give a discount on evblog.com/store.
Right.
Over and above my usual sale discounts. If you're paying crypto, you actually get like 10% off.
Selling.
I will happily. Got to shield the merch, so I will happily take your crypto. Thank you. You can use it to buy something really tangible.
That's right. Yeah, especially as you. I guess you've been moving through revisions on stuff too, right? You said you. Was that what? Why did you put something on sale or no?
My meter's on sale. My 121 GW meter. I'm just trying to clear out stock, so I got cash for a new big shipment.
Ah, got it. Yep.
So yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool.
It's all a cash flow thing. We talked about that on a.
Yeah, we did talk about that previously. Yep.
Yeah, like 6 months ago when I the business ran out of cash. Oops. Yep.
He's still here though. He's still here.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm not destitute. I'm not will podcast for food. I'm not sitting there with the brown paper cardboard sign.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
I've actually been doing some CM stuff, and
contract manufacturing.
Thank you. That's some big cash outlays as well. But it's been
on your part. Why? Because you've got to build the stuff.
No. Sorry, it's not my dollars. It's just going and seeing the dollars slide by, and I pay the.
You pass it on. So they pay you.
That's right.
They pay you $1 million, and then you realise you have to pay $950,000 to. Yep.
Yeah. Right.
It's the old Kickstarter thing, you do your Kickstarter and $500,000 suddenly appears in your bank account and you feel rich, and then you realise, well, I've got to spend almost that amount on actually buying stuff.
$490,000.
That's
$1,000, yeah.
So if people want to know how much I made off my 121 GW Kickstarter, don't ask. It's a bit depressing.
Hey, if you made any dollars, you're in good shape, actually.
Exactly. Yeah, if you came out ahead. That's right. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
I was still paying bills like 9 months later after that.
I believe it. Yeah.
Like, stuff I'd forgotten about, and then all of a sudden I'd get an invoice from Like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Cash flow is a real
Yeah.
business thing, man. Especially in hardware. Yeah.
And if you don't keep track of it, you can come a gutser.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You think you have, I mean, like, that's why it's always dangerous to look at the bank account balance, I think, versus like what's in your accounting system.
Because I thought it was done and dusted. Like, it's been 6 months, 9 months or whatever. I thought, I've paid for everything. Then all of a sudden, a supplier comes to you and said, hey, you haven't paid for those thing, or you haven't paid for this shipping. Just like 3 months ago. How long was the Kickstarter ago? A year and a half ago? It was only like, it wasn't that long, maybe 3-4 months ago. I got maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I got an email from the manufacturer saying, hey, you haven't paid the shipping invoice. It's like, $12,000.
Oh my.
Yeah. It's like, we shipped all these things to Europe for you. You didn't pay that.
Wow.
It's like, holy crap. Yeah, that's a lot of money, and that's US dollars.
Yeah.
So that translates to like 18 grand Australian or something.
Right. What
That's a crap ton
Aussie
of money.
buckaroos, is that what they call them?
Yeah. Aussie dollaradoos.
Dollaradoos, that's right. Yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
Dollaradoos.
Yeah.
Dollaradoos. And that's from a Simpsons episode, isn't it? I think.
Probably right, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that just comes out of the blue, and then you have to try and go through your records to see if you've paid this, and it's like, and you're just going through and it looks like I haven't, but I'm not 100% sure, and because money was just flowing willy-nilly everywhere.
Yeah.
During that, and it's hard to keep, impossible to keep track of. This is why you need, we talked about the ERP systems and stuff like that to keep track of these sorts of things.
Dave, I have a book recommendation. If you'd like one.
Again. Yeah,
of course.
I always like your book recommendations.
I know. This one's called Financial Intelligence for Entrepreneurs. You might like that one.
Right, yeah.
I've just started. I'm about 10% in. It's pretty good so far, though. It's like approachable for what it is, Basically being able to...
Do you ever implement anything in these books that you read? These
all the time.
Of self-help books that you read?
This one's less... This is actually more practical than self-helpy. I can tell... I just read How to Fail at Everything. And still win big. That's very self-helpy, and I actually didn't like that. That's the Scott Adams book.
Right. Okay. Yep. As in Dilbert.
Dilbert, yeah. He wrote like a self-help book, effectively.
Yes.
Not very.
Oh yeah. If you actually follow his blog, he's big on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was like reading like a condensed version of his blog. No, this is more about actual like doing finance for small businesses. So that was more in that. In that vein. I'm sure
everyone's rushing out to get that one.
Hey, whatever, man. These are...
Yeah.
There might be someone who likes it.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. No, this stuff can be important. You know? It's just like, it's not sexy.
Right, definitely
no
not.
one wants to, no one goes, I'm going to learn all about finance. And I'm
right.
Like, oh, God.
It's a Friday night, I'm going to grab a bottle of wine and a cash flow statement and see what happens.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to finish off my TPS reports.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
For those who don't know, Google TPS reports and watch the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
It's hilarious.
Well, I mean, so I'm actually in the middle of like doing reporting stuff though too. Like, so this is kind of what I want to talk about, like CMs and standardization and stuff like this. I wanted to ask your opinion on doing assemblies, right? So
yes,
when you start stacking up different, like so you have a BOM for your board. But your board is probably getting integrated into plastics that also has, maybe some glue and some screws and some, labeling and everything like that. And there's like going to be a top level BOM that is actually for your entire product. So like, let's just use the 121 GW meter as an example, right?
Yep.
That top level, the 121 GW top level assembly has a case, the tilting bale, the PCBs internally, the battery slots,
the rubber surround, the buttons,
exactly.
the button moldings, the screen protective acrylic thing, even the peel off thing which goes on the screen. That. Peel off
the protector. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, it costs money, right?
It's another BOM item. Yeah.
Right. So so now this isn't a great example because I don't think you assign part numbers for everything, but. Say you were doing...
Well, I am not that deeply involved in the
you're
121 manufacturing that. Yeah.
Right.
So
I've
never
spec'd
seen the actual BOM.
Right, you spec'd it out, but you
you
didn't actually do that thing. So now, let's go sideways to maybe just a product you're making or I'm making.
Which is the micro supplier just sent you a photo.
Oh, yeah.
Of the,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So And that's
we can talk about this because we're actually getting 4 assembled at the moment.
Perfect example. And we're allowed to share this picture or no?
No,
Okay.
I've shared it to the supporters on the forum.
All right. So people,
but I haven't shared it publicly.
People know that there's a keypad because you've talked about that. There's an LCD. There's probably plugs, whatever. And there's a case, right?
There's custom banana plugs. There's like 7 different custom parts on this thing.
Okay. So you've got custom parts now. How do you create a name for that, for each part?
We don't essentially. The manufacturer usually does that. The manufacturer will give it an internal part number, and then we just use that. We just take that internal part number that the manufacturer supplies. It'll be Jones -20 or something.
Right.
And
exactly.
we just
Right. So then, but you are making the circuit board assembly that's in there, or multiple assemblies, right?
Yes.
So what do you call that?
Oh, we wouldn't go to that detail because we're not that advanced. We'd just call it the assembled PCB. Like we wouldn't, like it wouldn't have a part number. Like some people, and this is the thing, companies I've worked at, you will put the assembled part number onto the silk screen of the board.
That's right. Yeah.
So there'll be 2 part numbers on the board. There'll be a part number for the bare PCB, and then there'll be a part number for the assembled PCB. And that's actually done at the design stage and put onto the PCB. Like we would have systems internal to the company where you generate a new part number.
Right. That's done in like
it would
product
actually generate one
lifecycle
for you.
maintenance software like PLM.
Yeah.
Right. Like Arena system or
and
E-Matrix.
and if you're a huge enough company, you'll have 364 at the start, and then that designates that product, and then you'll have like a 4-digit number after that.
That's right. Yep. Right. So I've been looking through all this, and it's super yawn, but it's like, but this can really like ripple through your design. You think about it, so I've been thinking like forward.
Right.
I've been thinking forward way too far. It's like just something I do, and just thinking about okay.
I think we've noticed, Chris.
Yeah. Right. But thinking about so working on one product now, but so let's say there's a top level assembly ABC 1 2 3, and then there's a sub assembly called DEF 4 5 6, right?
Yep.
The idea is we could name everything ABC 1 2 3 dash something to be the sub assembly, but then that thing could very realistically be reused in another product, right? And so then it could, and that's when it gets really, really confusing.
An RF module or something.
Well, even
for example,
say that you were going to do the micro supply, right? You were going to have top level assembly ABC 1 2 3, and then there's a secondary option thing. So there's like a high power version where it's going to be ABC 1 2 4, and then
you need 2 of those boards or something because it's high power, so it's double the power.
Sure, something like that, or it's a slightly modified version, or even even there's just a color modification where like the pegs are going to change or something like that, and it's like that ripples through everything. And so I've been looking for hey, let's do custom names for boards and stuff like that. I've been reading a bunch as well about other ways people do this. Sometimes it's literally everything's just a unique part number. It literally does not matter what it is. And that's how some companies do it, right? It starts at 000, and then the next thing is 001, and the next thing is 002, and 001 might be a screw, and 002 might be a fully assembled PCB, but you just do it incrementally.
We've had categories of parts, so we would have 1 2 3 dash, and then 4 5 6, and that 4 5 6 would be a screw.
Yeah,
and then and that'd be a category. So they're separated into product and then category and then the individual part in that category. So if you've got 10 screws, it'd be 1 2 3 4 5 6 001 002 003, and they'd be all screws. So you'd know that they're all screws.
But that's the other crazy thing about thinking too far forward, right? Is at a certain point, maybe not now, maybe not next year, maybe not in 10 years, but some companies that I've worked at have been around for 25 years. And they ran out of part numbers. It's holy crap! It's a real thing that can happen. And it's who thinks you're going to run out of
if you work
5 digits?
like HP?
Yeah. And then,
well, that's the thing. Like, there's famous companies like HP that would have HP dash, and then they'd have 3 digits and then 4 digits or whatever, and they would get the manufacturers to silkscreen these onto the chips instead of, it's a 74HC00, right? It's a regular 74HC00, but the manufacturer puts the HP part number silkscreened onto the chip.
Yeah.
So if you go to the HP website now, you can still access that database.
Yeah.
They have this database where you can look up this HP code, and it tells you, it's a 74HC00.
Yep. Right.
And
that's and
that is a thing.
But there's actually some purchasing, so this is like kind of merging like engineering into supply chain stuff too. And it's like there are some real reasons to do that too. Right. Like you could start to have like on a which one is it? Is it MRP or ERP? Whatever it is. Like you basically have a
ERP.
Yeah.
ERP.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think But basically, okay, ABC123 is now the part number of that 74HC00, right? But you might buy it from, you need 10 million of those parts per year. You might buy, as long as they're all spec'd and approved from different vendors, you might buy a bunch from TI and a bunch from NXP, whatever, and it doesn't matter because internally the only thing you refer to is the ABC123. That's all you care about.
And I've done that. I've done that at companies, and companies like HP will do that.
Sure.
That HP part number referring to the 7400, there will be like 5 different manufacturers of that 74HC00, and it doesn't matter.
Right. And we should,
because you've done the qualification, and I've done these qualifications, these qualification reports that ensure that these 3 different manufacturers, they're all equivalent parts, and they get assigned the company part number.
Right, and we should say
purchasing people.
We should salute the component engineers out there, Dave. Don't you think? We should.
Right.
We salute you. We know you're listening. We love you. You're amazing. It's a shitty job, and you do good work. Keep it up, folks.
And all those component obsolescence engineers out there.
Oh.
We salute you.
Dave. I remember Dave. He was.
That's a real title.
Yeah. Oh, no. There's good people that I worked with. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they were component obsolescence engineers.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. And this company gets big enough. And, so then the buyers... where you would have a team of buyers, and they know nothing about electronics and stuff like that, but they buy these parts, and they know that part they can buy from these 5 different manufacturers.
Yep.
It's all because it's all in the system, and then they're all linked and approved and whatnot.
Right. Because at the end, and then they're able to go and do the buyer thing, which is again, we should give a little bit of props. One of my best friends is a buyer.
Yep.
But like they go and they shout at the manufacturers and they say, you need to give us a 10% price reduction. And that actually can have some like long ripple effects there too.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out like what is the best practice for naming these things? Do you give each assembly a unique name? Do you just start pulling numbers?
There's pros and cons. Like I wouldn't even want to try and hazard a guess at a best in quote marks way to do it.
I will. I may have also shared this story once before, but at my first co-op, for some reason, they let the co-op engineers pull numbers. There was an internal system.
Right.
It was just it was like over top of a Microsoft Access database or something like that, and you pressed a button and it pulled the next number. So it was like 18,557, and then you pressed a button and it said 18,558, and that was the number you pulled, and it was no big deal. However, one of the interns typed in 28557 and jumped 10,000 part numbers at once, and that lives forever. You don't go back. You can't go back. So now there's just this gap. And for all time, for as long as the company exists now, they're gonna be like, what happened here? It's like, friggin' Mark.
Exactly.
Oh man.
We had a convoluted part number system at Altium of all places, because
I believe it.
like internal, because our hardware group, obviously, we had to have these approved parts that would because then they would have a designated footprint and they'd have a designated schematic symbol, and all that sort of stuff. So it ties into the design level like that as well. It's not just the assembly side of things, and it was convoluted, and it kind of sort of worked, but it was kind of sort of annoying at the same time, and it was just
I mean, that's the thing, like all of these systems, they're always annoying, but damn are they important, I just remember we were right at Keithley, I think it was. We were right on the edge of using a new system. It was all web-based, but it shouldn't have been yet. It should have been a local database, but they were trying really hard to make it web-based. And it was just you would lose work all the time, and it it was a hot mess, but
Yep.
but like this is where like information systems are really, really critical,
Yeah. And one of the problems was that, especially at the PCB stage, like you would go searching. Okay, so you're designing this new board, right? Which we did tons of, and you're looking. So you go searching for the part. You're about to put your schematic symbol down, which is then tied to your footprint and everything else.
Sure.
So you need something like a 10K resistor,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Something
yeah.
simple like a 10K resistor. Oh, there's got to be one in the system. Of course there is, but it's a and it's the footprint. It's the size you want. So it's an 0603 10K resistor, right? But of course, from the standards, the PCB footprint standards, there are 3 different sizes. There's large, medium, and small, or whatever it is, right? There's the 3 different variations in the official IPC standards.
Got it.
For that.
Yep.
So you may have used a normal one, right? The part in the system's normal, but then you're doing this ultra compact board where you've got to do all these small size footprints, the ones with a smaller fillet on it. So you'd have to create a new damn part, another 10K resistor, and with a slight variation on the footprint, even though the schematic symbols, and it'd just go on and on and on.
Oh my God.
And you'd end up with 20 10K resistors in the system.
Right. And then you grab the wrong one sometimes, right?
And then you grab the wrong one, or you spend half the day just like looking at all the different parts because they weren't labeled. Properly, or you'd have to go in and double check just to make sure the previous person who did it didn't goof, and it's like, you just spend forever.
Yeah, this is the argument against, I think the argument against atomic libraries like this, but at a certain point, like when it comes to like tying into actual like manufacturing systems, it's almost necessary, right? Because it's like, when you put down a part,
it's a necessary.
You want to know that it is the actual physical part.
It is solid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you've used it before, and it worked, and you guarantee it's going to work again. Yes.
And then when you were doing that, did you guys have a dedicated librarian to do that kind of thing as well, or were you doing the actual generation?
We had dedicated librarians in Tasmania, insert Tasmanian jokes here, and who would do like footprints and stuff.
Sure.
They would do stuff for us, but we had to tie together at the higher level.
Yeah. And
so
that's what's crazy about
they
it.
would do the footprints. And we would have to
people
tie
haven't
it
done
together.
that before. It's like, so like Dave's example, he needs a new 10K resistor now. It's like, okay, so you have to submit a request now. Here it has all the same part specs. Here's an example data sheet. Here's an approved part, an actual part number that's for it. And then you also have to say like, oh, I want it to be this specific type of tighter footprint. Please go and make this and attach it to this thing and tie it all the way back to their database. At the end of the day, it's like 4 hours later. It's crazy.
I know. And people might think, well, how can you get so many variants on a 10K resistor? Well, let me tell you how. Okay, not only is it it's a 10K resistor. That's fine. You might have a different schematic versions. You might have a larger one and then a more compact version.
Right,
It depends on the
squiggly
the
line
style,
versus square
the
box.
squiggly lines versus the box, right? So there's 2 variants. And then it goes down like a tree. And then each one of those variants can have, is it a 1% resistor? Is it a 0.5%?
Yep.
Is it a 0.1%?
Yep.
Okay, and then the tree down on that. Oh, is it 50 ppm? Is it 15 ppm?
Yep.
Is it 10 ppm?
Oh, man.
Right, and then the variation down on that. You can see this tree just growing, and then the variation down on that is, as I said, the footprint. Is it small, medium, or large, or some other weird ass custom thing?
Right. And then if like from the beginning, if you're like, oh, I need an R96 resistor, it's like, well, I'm definitely putting in a part request, because the chance that you have a resistor at this weird ass value that you chose, and all the specs that you need, is like, there's no chance. You just start.
And it was never there. The part Murphy would ensure that the part you wanted was never there, even though it was a 10K resistor.
I was going to say, Murphy would say that there'd be one just about there.
It's almost there, but you had to then take out another part number to create a variant because you wanted 10 ppm instead of 15.
That's right. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Seriously. People think, this modular design or whatever you want to call it, is just, these global, why isn't there one library out there that the entire internet. There's whole companies based around this.
Yeah,
I got an
that's
email
right.
from one the other day who's, we've solved the component problem. Look, the whole community has come together and verify that this component's good. And it's like, dude, you don't understand the complexity.
Right.
Everyone needs something slightly different.
Right.
And that is the fundamental problem, and it always will be.
Yeah, I think that's why there's a business for like the Snap EDAs and the ultra librarians of the world, like Upverter has that now too. The EE, I forget what they call their product, but basically like all of these like on-demand part generation services is because it's solving. It's basically solving this problem that we're talking about, where it's now hire it out to someone else, pay the fee or whatever it is, and they just do it. That's their business model effectively. No, nothing's solved. Yep. It's just everything's custom and a little bit faster.
and again, there's no best way to do it.
Yeah,
Do you create the 20 different variants of that 10K resistor, or do you have just one or two, and then on your PCB, once you've and then tweak it on your PCB? Oh, I need a small footprint instead of the large one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that, or do you go back and do it at the schematic?
Right.
A component level with its own individual part number. There's no right or wrong there.
Yeah, I do the latter.
There's nothing wrong with tweaking it on the PCB.
Yeah, that's what I do. But then it's like, that is only for small companies, I think. Right? It's like, because then I'm going out, I'm buying parts from a distributor like a Mauser, DigiKey, or whatever.
Yeah, I think the bigger you get, the more inevitable it is that you
if you're buying by the reel, or if you talk to a supply chain expert, if you have a supply chain expert in your company, there is very little chance that you get to tweak it on the PCB, I think.
Oh yeah, they won't tolerate that. Yeah, exactly.
I have.
Oh, it's a can of worms.
I have one other question about revision, or sorry, part numbers. Since we're on this enthralling topic.
Yes.
How do you do revisions on your board? So I was asking about this on the consulting forum as well. I'll give you an example of what I do, and maybe just use that as the basis. There's how long is this piece of string, as you like to say, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I've been doing is like x.y.z, and then this is the one I propose at least. It's like major, minor, and then firmware revision, where you leave a blank for the firmware revision, because it's probably going to be a sticker or put onto the board, because that's going to change the most often. But major would be like PCB revision, Y would be like modifications to population options, and then Z would be like firmware revisions. And like I said, stickers are probably going to be stuck on the board in order to modify that thing.
I would never go to the firmware level.
Yeah.
I'd never go to the firmware. That would always be done as a sticker. That would never be populated as part of the part number or part of the revision for the PCB.
No. Nothing. So like when I say it's on the PCB, I would say like it would almost be like so if it was like version 3 of the PCB itself, it'd be 3 dot blank on the PCB, because then you'd fill in like what revision is, because you're not going to rev the PCB each time. You're going to rev the PCB once, and then you might have population options, and then you have firmware options. But I'm saying now, when I write you an email and I say, hey Dave, 3.1.2, which is PCB 3 version 3, assembly version 1, firmware version 2 is borked, as it is inevitably to be. I'm saying like you need like this, like the
you're tying together PCB revisions with assemblies.
Yeah,
that's a different beast. You're talking about a top level part number of a of a product that has multiple variations, like you talked about right at the start of all this. Whereas if you're talking about just revision of a PCB, then so are you talking about revisions of assemblies?
Yeah. Then, this would be the entire thing.
Okay, in terms of the micro supply,
sure,
right? Okay, you'd have the PCB part number, then you'd have the assembly tacked onto that. It'd be XXX dash YYYY, and then dash, and then Rev 1. So the Rev 2 of the micro supply might have a blue banana jack instead of a red one.
Sure, yep.
For example. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, if you're saying that's a... okay, let's go back to the...
because it could be a different audible product for different market segments, right? In Europe, they want blue banana plugs, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that might be...
Whereas the US market want red banana plugs.
Yeah. This
seriously.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This
No,
is
I totally believe that, actually.
Yeah.
No, this was actually more talking. This was kind of a separate discussion than. So this is now just thinking of the PCB, the assembled PCB with firmware on it as an assembly, right? It's in the overall case.
Okay, so you're talking about just the PCB.
Yeah.
Forget the case,
so
everything else.
I basically order something from an assembly house, right? I say, hey, I want to order from you, version 3.1 is effectively what they would know. Maybe I say 3.1.12. This is the example I've been using. 3.1.12, right? That would be version 3 of the PCB, right? That would be the third time I've revved the actual, FR4. Version 1 of the actual assembly of that FR4, right? And then pre-programmed or programmed firmware 12 when I order it. Is this too complicated? Like, so then the question is, how do you do it? Do you just say it's Rev A, Rev B, Rev C? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, on the boards. Yeah, we would separate boards from assembly. Like, it's
Okay. I mean, this is why I'm asking.
And then there's this discussion of, well, what should you rev? Or what dictates revising a PCB? If you just do a few tidy ups on the traces, especially internal revisions. Okay, it's not just external, it's internal revisions. How do you do your internal stuff? Like you've finished your board, and then you might decide, oh, no, I just want to tweak a few things. Are you going to increase the revision of the board even though you haven't released it yet?
Yeah.
A lot of companies will say, yes,
sure.
You must, right?
Yeah, because I think there's a psychological thing of like, oh, well, I don't want this to be like a major new revision. It's not a 4.0.
I
was just on 3.0.
I just moved a few traces over here.
Right.
And,
but I actually saw that taken to an even more extreme example. I was reading some mechanical stuff. I think it was GrabCAD or one of the online like mechanical companies had an ebook about this, and they're like, if anything changes, you pull a completely new part number. And you mark it as such.
Right.
Now they're talking mechanical stuff where it's like it is, you change the chamfer on something and it's like no, that's a new part now. But I kind of like that idea. It's just a nightmare from a
it's
keeping
fine
stuff
in theory.
keeping stuff up to date and that's I think one of the problems is like if you're just as a computer is like it's a unique identifier. I don't care what you call it. But if it's a human, you're like, oh, this switched from a 3.0 to a 4.0. What did you do?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah, so it's like, well.
Yep.
I've had some good responses about it and some good discussions about it, but like generally, I'm just curious about resources on this stuff too because I'm sure it's out there. I just haven't found it. I don't know if I'm searching for the wrong things, and it's all opinion too. So it's basically just trying to glue together
everyone
opinions.
will think their system's the best, and everyone will give you 10 reasons why their system's the best.
I actually think everyone's is the worst, including my own. This is the problem.
Right.
Like you've dealt with it, I've dealt with it, right? It's always like it's usually legacy, and now that I'm like working with startups and younger companies, it's like I want to put something decent.
You get to introduce it from scratch.
Yeah, I just want to put something decent in place. It doesn't be perfect, but just something decent.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm asking these questions of like. Yeah, what's like a best practice at least? If there was like a general guideline, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just do that.
I see. I don't think it matters as long as you're consistent.
I agree with that.
I really don't.
Yeah.
It's, as long as you're consistent, and then all new employees that come to the company, they learn that system and they become consistent with it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, lots to learn, I suppose.
Yep. Like for startups, you see, I would be against introducing too much of a rigid system like that. It really stifles too much process. You're saying, the lean sort of startup ethos. It's like it goes against all that.
Sure.
It's like, because you want to churn out prototypes quick. You want to, you just like everything's forgotten about last week. Who cares what we did last week? We're just going forward.
No, I get that. But like when you start interacting with a contract manufacturer, that's when it's like, no, this is real. Yeah. And it's like, true. Because the thing that I worry about is like talking to someone. And that's why I was saying like 3.1.2. If I would talk to someone, it should be enough of an address effectively so that it's unique enough that they're like, oh, I know what that is. And I say, I know what that is. And we talk about that together. If I just say it's like, oh, well, it's Rev 3 and, we built up a couple of these boards and it's, we put the latest firmware on it. It's like, what the hell does that mean? That doesn't, like having like something where it's
all warm and fuzzy.
It's an actual unique identifier that says something useful is what I'm really trying to get at. So I'd love to hear from people if they have best practices on that stuff.
Depends on your anal retentiveness
That's right.
level.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are running out of time, but I wanted to mention...
We're out of time.
Yeah, we are out of time. I'm going to be at Teardown in Portland. That is at the end of June. That is a conference run by Crowd Supply. And I'll be giving a talk there about... what did I call it? 5 minutes of...
Hang on. Let me guess. KiCad.
Nope. 5 minutes of video in a 10-pound bag or something like that. It was like basically like how to record videos really fast. About KiCad.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Using the example. Yeah.
Speaking of KiCad videos, almost all the KiCad videos are now up on the Contextual Electronics channel. So
excellent.
I'll link those as well. There were some really good ones. So
how many of them are now obsolete? Because somebody's changed something.
I think these are, probably 10%.
Right. 10% are obsolete or only 10% are relevant?
No, I was going to say obsolete. I don't think they're actually obsolete, but that was,
Right.
There might be some stuff there.
Right.
I also wanted to announce I got a ticket for Chaos Communication Camp, which is in Berlin
so I heard.
in August 21st to 25th. So German listeners, if you're going to be there, I'd love to meet up. I'd love to see more of Germany. I love Berlin as well. So if you're going to be there, let me know. And
I have not been to Berlin.
Well, you want to go, Dave? Come on. It's only, 40
Sure.
hours of travel to go sleep in a tent?
50?
Yeah.
No, 60,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
60. Yeah, 60 hours.
Okay.
Yep, to get to Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, there and back. Yep,
Yeah,
60.
worth it, man. Come on.
Yeah, totally.
A bunch of nerds hang out in a field. It's good. It's good stuff.
Right.
Not showering for 5 days. It's going to be something else.
Right. Utopia.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Woodstock of the nerd generation.
That's right. Yeah. And then one more.
Boy.
Sorry, one more. I'll also be at SuperCon in November. So that is the last thing. Those are in Black Hat. So those are like the rest of my conferences for I'm done with conferences.
I thought you were giving up the conference thing. I thought you were settling down.
I mean,
Giving up
still
the whole.
get out for some things,
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah. Now the difference is I pay for my own travel, Dave.
Yeah. Bummer.
Yeah. It's good. I got shorter US or XLR cables. So I'll be recording too. So amp hour listeners will benefit.
Excellent.
Yes. Cool. All right. Well, good luck with the yet to be seen micro supply. I'm sure people will be excited to see that.
Thank you very much. Oh, you might be one last thing. You might be interested to know that we've decided to actually get a contract manufacturer to assemble four for us. It's like
great.
we couldn't be asked to assemble them ourselves. Like we just want 4 of these boards. We just couldn't be asked to do it.
It's probably a good test run for actually assemble too.
Yeah, it's a reasonable test run, and there's lots of fiddly little
they'll be able to give you feedback
that
that another CM would like a higher volume CM would be getting too. So that's a good test run. You should go and sit there probably while they do it, or get video of them. Ask them to do video while they do it.
Oh, and the thing is, they'll source all the parts too.
Ooh, that's nice. So it's like a box build.
Yeah, they'll source it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
We just give them the bomb, and they will source they'll source everything, assemble them, and deliver us 4 assembled boards.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
You know how many hours that saves us?
Yeah, that's almost always worth it. I've been coming around to that finally.
Yep. And whereas one, before we've been assembling one, it's like, it's for prototype testing. It's like, well, we can't go and get them to assemble one.
Right.
That's just not. No, we just head down, bum up, do it ourselves. But 4, it's like, because we want a few of these, 4, maybe 5 of them, and it's like, let's just pay I think it's $1,200 or something.
Yep.
To get 5 of them, which it might sound.
It's like
a bit
6 hours of time.
But it's like, exactly. How much, you would spend a lot more hours than that doing it. And that'd be expensive if it was just assembly, but it's not. It's sourcing and we've got a lot of parts on this thing. There's a lot of individual parts. It's a big bomb. You'd be stunned at the number of bomb items on a little tiny handheld power supply thing. And they'll just take care of all that hassle for us. And it's like, that's a complete no-brainer. We'll do that. And,
awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting my first unit. I'm sure I'm going to be on the list of the first 4 in.
Oh, Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing for. Yeah,
don't send it to me. I'm not a good beta tester.
Do we get 10? We're still not 100. Like, if we were sure that, if we were like 80% confident that this was like the final thing and there were going to be no mods, then we'd probably get like 10 of them and ship a few out to people. But it's like,
but
I asked David the other day, and how confident? Oh, 20%. It's like
that's a good hedge right there. That's a good hedge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll just get 4 of them. Thanks.
You can ship those out and have them sent back. I mean, that's still doable.
Oh it's But anyway, we want a couple and then a few to totally abuse. We want a couple just to use from a firmware usability and testing point of view, and then you want a couple that you can have your way with.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Anyway,
cool. We'll talk about that more next time.
Catch you next time.